Hello and welcome to our Learn the Lessons interview series where I, Phil Webster, interview successful people from across all different walks of life, from sport, health, education, and business. Our goal here is to learn the key lessons to success from the successful. Every day we're always learning, so why wouldn't we want to learn from those that have already achieved what we want? Today, I'm interviewing Krista Tier. She's the founder and CEO of Krista Tier High Performance Mindset Coaching. She is a business coach and strategist. She is the co-creator of the Optimize program and author of The Soulpreneur, launching in 2019, so later this year, showing you the way to your soul's purpose. I am super excited to be learning the lessons from this beautiful lady today. So, hello and welcome, Krista.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I am excited about this. So I kind of just want to dive in. I've known you for a while and you're just a font of knowledge, and I'm excited to kind of learn your lessons and hopefully, you know, people listening to this will really take value. So firstly, Krista, just tell me, what have been so far the biggest lessons that you've learned along this journey that we call life?
Oh, so much. But I think the biggest piece that I have learned is to trust and know that we're always on the right path, to trust and know that no matter what we're experiencing, maybe it be hardship, maybe it be emotional struggle, maybe it be negative emotions, whatever we're experiencing in this moment, we're exactly where we're meant to be. So there can be always lessons to gain. There can be always things that are really necessary for our evolution that we have to go through in order to reach that next stage. So I feel for me is just a trust and a belief that we're on track to creating the life that we desire.
So you believe that everything happens for a reason, you know, the challenges that come your way are there for a reason, for lessons to be learned. Is that what you're saying?
Totally. So I think that, yes, everything is always a gift. I truly believe that and for me personally, I've been through a lot of hardship in my life, and it enables me to do what I do today, and impact the lives that I impact. But I think at the essence of it, we go through experiences and sometimes people just don't learn the lessons. So they keep having the same experience on repeat throughout their entire life. So yes, if we have the awareness that everything is always a gift, everything is always happening for us and not to us, we get to take the little gold nuggets that are in each and every incremental moment, and we get to use that as our growth.
Yeah, for us, not to us. Yeah. So can you just kind of elaborate on that? Because I think some people will miss what that actually means.
Totally. So I truly believe that, and this is just a bit of a shift in perspective, right? Like so many people, we have two ways that we can live our life, and that can be in cause or that can be in effect. Effect is being affected by everything that is external from us. So always blaming relationships, always blaming, friendships or circumstances that we may be experiencing at work or school or in our family for the way that we show up in this world. Cause is taking full responsibility of our life and knowing that we have the power to change any of it. It's up to us how we react and respond in any given moment, and whether we learn the lessons to a deep core level and change our life with that. So I truly believe with that level of awareness, knowing that we can take back the power, knowing that we can really learn in each and every moment, it's always happening for us. It's always a gift. I can even reflect in my life and see each and every moment that was so excruciatingly painful. And I can see very clearly now that it happened for me because I wouldn't have been able to learn any other way.
Yeah. So you're basically saying like, taking full responsibility is kind of like the most important thing that someone can do.
Yes.
Taking those little nuggets and then allowing them to shape you in a positive way rather than a kind of negative, kind of victim kind of mentality kind of way. That's what you mean.
So true. Absolutely. And we have choice, right?
Yeah.
We're given choice in this lifetime. So it can either go one way or the other. And I know even people that have had a similar life experience to me, and they've gone completely in the opposite direction and decided to live in victim mentality for the rest of their life. A woe is me mentality. But I was personally never content with that. I was going to fully utilize all of the pain and suffering that I experienced to change other people's lives. So that happened through me taking responsibility of it, right? I took responsibility for the emotions that I felt. I took responsibility for the choices that I made. I took responsibility for each and every incremental moment that was there, because then when I took responsibility for it, I then had the power to change it. But while we are allowing everyone else to dictate who we are, when we're in that blame mentality, our power is out there and we don't have the ability to change anything.
So in terms of, when you're coaching people, how exactly, like what tools or strategies do you use if this is new for somebody, like they've never heard this kind of take responsibility yourself? Like what tools or strategies or sayings or things that people can do to implement that after listening to this?
Yeah, so I think that what's really important is to really become aware and it's very dependent on where the person's at. But I think for someone who is at very beginner level, to become aware of how we are feeling and reacting in any given moment. Because what a lot of people do is spend their life in a flight or fight state, like on complete autopilot. And they're not becoming aware of how we're reacting and responding to different situations. So I think it starts with having awareness of it. Because if a person is suffering negative emotion, or if they're suffering, a feeling of anxiety or a bit of depression or anything that is, that low feeling, we get to, in that moment, check in and see what we're focusing on there, right? And this is just back to awareness again, because I know for me, if I woke up every day and I decided to focus on things that could go wrong or things that were lacking in my life, well, I would be pretty miserable for the rest of my day. So I have the awareness, and I teach my clients to have the awareness. We also get to focus on the things that we can be grateful for. We also have the choice, coming back to choice, we also have the choice to wake up and be grateful that we've got a family, or we've got friends, or we've got a roof over our head, or even the fact that we're experiencing another day in this human life, right? Like bringing it back to basics that aren't so basic, because some people didn't wake up today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about things like, affirmations and the way that we kind of affirm either positively or negatively in those feedback loops that we're constantly in. That's something that a lot of people that I talk to really kind of emphasize as, really being consciously aware of your thoughts, both positive and negative, and learning to turn those negatives off and turn those positives on daily.
Yeah. And understanding too that sometimes the negative thoughts can be a part of our brain, and I won't go deep into science on this, but it's actually a part of our brain that allows us to survive. So sometimes the way that we are biologically designed, like in our caveman brain, is to always see hazards. So when we are thinking negatively, it's usually because we're looking for all of the things that could go wrong, or all of the things that we need to fear. This is just the way that our brain works. But what we get to do is recognize that as not being our reality. That's not actually the truth until we say it's so, right? But we, in that moment, can either think of everything that could go wrong in our future, or we could think of everything that could go right and focus on the endless possibility. So we get to focus on the positive, right? And understanding, I think, where it comes from that negative feedback, where that actually comes from, we then get to go, oh, okay, well, that's not real. That's just my mind playing tricks on me. That's my mind protecting me. Yeah. And now I get to choose something else.
Yeah. So let's just take that now back into, looking back to what, maybe you wish you'd have been taught at school. What would you say would have been really useful lessons for you to have been taught in those high school kind of years, those teenager years?
Yeah. I think for me, and I was very badly bullied at school, so there is so much that I would tell my sort of 15 or 16-year-old self, and even younger, you know, but to believe in yourself and to know that people can't hurt you unless you allow them to. And I teach my daughter this. I have a nearly 8-year-old daughter, and even at her age, there are children at school that can be really nasty. And the reminder that I give her is that hurt people hurt people. Happy people don't hurt people. So there's this beautiful acknowledgement that we don't recognize as children because we see bullies, and we get hurt by it, and we feel like our whole world is crashing down upon us in that moment. But we also now as adults get to acknowledge that those people that are doing the bullying, or those people that are hurting you or telling you that you're not enough or criticizing you or judging you, it's because they feel all of that about themselves.
So say that again, Krista. I think people might have just missed that complete nugget. Hurt people, hurt people. That is absolute gold, you know, not just from, you know, telling children or teenagers, you know, that's so true as you go through life. And I think what you just said then is basically whatever people are giving out to you is 9 times out of 10 a mirror to what they're experiencing somewhere in their life. Yeah, that's so powerful, especially, you know, as teenagers. You don't necessarily get taught that, you know, when you're going through school and you're going through those challenges yourself.
So then there's just like this, you know, this like fire that is created, because I think that if I was to change one thing, I would teach children how to utilize their brain and you know, these sort of things, have an understanding so that they know that, you know, if they are being bullied at school, or there's someone that is being mean to them or telling them, you know, that they can't do or can't be this, that, and the other, that it's only, a reflection of them. Because also the impact that it creates, right? Like when we don't have that acknowledgement at such a young, vulnerable age, then we grow with those same belief systems thinking that we're not enough. But we get to acknowledge in that moment that that's not the truth. That's the truth for that person that's projecting it. So I think here's a beautiful thing that I just need to add. I've always told my daughter that hurt people hurt people. And she came home from school the other day and she goes, "Mummy, such and such was being so nasty to me." And I gave her a hug and I said, hurt people hurt people. And I think you just need a hug because that might make you feel better. And if we can adapt that in children, in teenagers, that fire doesn't put out fire, it only creates a bigger one. So we get to meet that fire with an understanding. That is powerful.
That's game changing.
Yeah.
Socially, you know, in terms of that maturity, that is game changing when you go into, you know, the workplace, the business world, you know, whatever world you're going into. That's powerful. Krista, you said something that I'd like to go a little bit deeper into in terms of teaching children how to use their brain. You know, what does that look like for you? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I guess that, you know, we learn so much in school, and a lot of it is things that, you know, we don't utilize as adults. Like a lot of it is totally irrelevant. And one thing, you know, the training that I've done is full understanding and depth of knowledge about how we work neurologically. So, and this is something that, you know, is not taught in schools, and it's just mind blowing to me because our brain is our greatest, you know, tool, our greatest power when we know how to fully utilize it. But I think this would really allow people to understand what they can achieve in life as to how to use their brain, how to overcome different sorts of emotions. It would really stop, you know, suicide. It would really get rid of, you know, people putting limitations upon themselves. There is so much there that if that was taught at a young age, because young children actually absorb, as you know, absorb knowledge so much quicker, and it's something that they hold on to for the rest of their life. So if we even just teach children how to change their focus in certain situations, you know, focusing on positive instead of focusing on negative, teaching them how to use their body to change the way that they feel, you know, changing their state so they can go from like a disempowered state, or they can be in a happy state. You know, like these sort of things are things that need to be taught to young people, because then they are literally set up for the best life possible.
Yeah, like mindfulness and kind of, yeah, body language and things like that. It's funny, I was reading something the other day, and it said in a world of selfies, learn thyself.
Yeah.
And it's basically what you're selling, you're telling here is, this idea of, not necessarily learning a lot of academia in terms of memory-based activities, but really understanding thyself from a psychological, physiological state and awareness as well. How do you go about that? As a mother, how else would you go about educating people to be a little bit more self-aware and self-reflective in order to kind of master that mind and master that self?
Yeah, so I think that because we live in such a busy world these days, and social media actually plays a massive part in that, we don't actually have time to know who we are, right? And this is adults as well, like it has this ripple effect throughout humanity altogether. So I think having practice of complete mindfulness and going back to center, like really tuning in and getting in our body instead of being out here and constantly looking at our phones and our computers and running from place to place. We get to just come back and be in the very moment. But what I think is really important for children to know is that social media is not reality, right? It's the best parts of everyone's life that are being put and displayed on your screen. And then a lot of people are in fact making comparison to the best parts of other people's lives with the worst parts of their own. And I think that this can definitely create a bit of it can be a tricky, I love social media because I see the positive benefits of it and I know how to fully utilize it in positive ways. But for people that are already feeling insecure and they're questioning themselves, it can be a bit of a tricky situation. I think for me, the best advice that I would give someone my daughter's age or teenagers is that there is only, and I don't think people hear this enough, there is only one of you on this planet. There is one of you. There's one of me. There's one of you, Phil. There's one of whoever else is watching. There's only one of you. There's one person with your DNA. That's it. So why not fully embrace that, fully own that, and be proud of your uniqueness? No matter what you look like, no matter what you're comparing yourself to, understand that you are always perfectly imperfect. You don't have to look like social media. You don't have to be perfect in the way that you speak or the way that you present yourself. You, in your complete authenticity, in your complete truth, in your complete realness and rawness with no masks worn, that is perfect. And we get to have full acceptance of it. And I think, when we teach children to love themselves, they then have that relationship that they get to carry on throughout their life. And I wish I learned that earlier, right? It took me a long period of time to learn to truly love everything about myself. Because from that place, we then create boundaries of what we will and won't accept. In relationships, in friendships, in the workplace, we create boundaries because we love and honor ourselves and we have a standard, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you don't love yourself, why would anybody else love you?
That's right.
And it has to start with you, and then that will reflect out and your energy, you will radiate, and that will come back to you. Krista, that itself is absolute gold. And I hope people re-listen to that, because in all of that, you just said some absolute gold, for people to really master the mind. And I think if once you've mastered your mind, then you can master anything, any career, any choice, any family, any business, anything that you're doing. I think the difference between winning and losing is mindset, and everything that you just said then encompasses all of that. But what I want to go on to now, Krista, is if you were to lose everything, okay, so, all of your kind of, your businesses, your kind of credentials, the only thing that you've got is your knowledge. What would you do? Like, how would you get yourself back to where you are now? What would be your kind of your game plan?
I would get straight back up, because I believe that you have to fail fast. And when you are achieving anything, when you set out to achieve big visions or you're on a big mission, there is going to be failure, and we've got to be okay with the failure. Because the failure, and I truly, I don't even like to use that word, because I truly believe that failure is only evident when you give up, when you throw in the towel and give up completely.
Otherwise, it's just lessons.
Yeah, that's right. It's all lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get back up really goddamn quick, and I would be able to create what I have created so much quicker from scratch, because I've done it before and I did it the long way because I didn't know what I was doing. And in that, I would completely have trust in the process, knowing that it all happened for a reason.
So hindsight's a great thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say, for instance, you don't have that. Would you seek, what would you do then? Would you seek assistance? Like what would then be your game plan if hindsight wasn't kind of in your favor and you didn't know what you know? Because we always say you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
How would you then attack that same scenario?
I would definitely ask for help. I think that that's something that I didn't do early on. And like the person that I am now is someone that asks for help, and I reach out to someone that is more knowledgeable than me, or, can assist me in some way, and I ask for their guidance. I would definitely, there would be a huge trust in the whole process of it. But also, I think that here's the difference. Some people create a business and it's based on sort of hustle and grind, and it's this to-do list, and it's busy, busy, busy all the time, but it doesn't feel good, right? Like my career and my knowledge that I have, it feels so good. And so I actually love doing it every single day. So I think that I would be guided by that. I'd know that it's my soul's purpose to do what I am doing. So I would be guided 100% by that. And I know I have a deep trust and a deep knowing that the right resources and opportunities would fall in my lap.
So what you're basically saying there, Krista, let me just kind of summarize that, is purpose. And you mentioned the word, soulpreneur and things like that. What you actually mean there is finding your kind of, your drive, your purpose, for want of a better word, your reason why.
Yeah.
Like, how do you help somebody that's just starting their journey, that doesn't know their why, doesn't know their purpose? How do you connect that, or how do you start to kind of unravel and unpack that for people?
Yeah. So the first question that I would ask someone that just doesn't have a clue, I would ask them if they were to do something every single day and not for any return financially, so no money in exchange, if they just got to do something every single day, what would that be? And that's the thing.
Yeah. Right? Sometimes people are waiting for a magic kind of a magic bullet or some kind of new fad or some miraculous kind of, it's as simple as that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it absolutely is, because the way that we have been brought up in this society is that we have to work from 9 to 5. It's got to be really hard. There's this whole talk about work-life balance, but I actually just watched a video on this, and it should be flipped. It should be life-work balance, because we have to live. Right? So it's got to be life first. Otherwise we get to an age and then, it's almost the end of our life, and then we go, oh my gosh, I wish I lived a little more. So I truly believe that that's the simplicity of it. It's the programming that society has today, saying that it's got to be hard, it's got to be this, you've got to go get a 9 to 5 job for little to no pay. No. What lights you up? My mum always said that to me as a kid. What makes you happy? What makes you happy? I don't care about your academics. I don't care you getting a straight A in algebra. I don't care about any of that. What makes you happy? And I always followed it. And because I always followed it, I've always been successful.
Yeah, so powerful. Like you say, the words that we use, we say things like, climbing the ladder. That itself just sounds draining to me, so I think the language that we use, and can you just repeat what your mum said to you as a child? Because again, that is really empowering as a parent, the language that we use is really important.
Oh, absolutely. And we get to set the example, because children they're not listening to your words as such, they're following your actions as well. So we get to have the awareness of the language that we use with them, but we also get to combine it with how we act. right? And yeah, so she used to say to me as a child, I don't care about your academics, I don't care about your straight A mark, I don't care about any of it. What I do care about is knowing what makes you happy. Because when you're happy, when you're passionate about your job, it's never a job.
No.
When you're miserable about going to work every single day, number one, that affects so many other aspects of your life, including your health. You know, it's actually been proven that optimists live a much longer life than pessimists. So optimists being, you know, people that are positive, pessimists being people that are negative, putting a negative connotation on life. It's actually scientifically proven that they live a far longer life. So if we're in a miserable job and we're feeling miserable and we have a negative attitude and it's just like a daily, you know, grind that we're hating, it's cutting into our lifespan. Is that really worth it? Or do we get to reassess and go, you know what makes me really happy? What puts me in an optimistic state? It doesn't mean that life is always going to be unicorns and roses. There's going to be ebbs and flows, right? But at the same time, we get to do something that lights us up, because I truly believe each of us were given a voice. We're given a voice. We're given a form of medicine that has to be shared. And that medicine gets to heal other people in whatever form. That may be in music, that may be, you know, being a doctor might light you up, being a teacher, being a, you know, a coach, whatever that is for you, that is a medicine that can help others in some way. And that is a truly fulfilled life.
And you've got to share your medicine. There's not much point being the best kind of kept secret in the shelf.
That's right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So are there any other kind of key lessons that you have gone through in your life that you would like to kind of just draw people's attention to for them to learn from?
Yeah. So I think probably the biggest thing that people get to look at is, and I just think that this is probably, there are so many lessons that I could share, so many, but I think the biggest one is right at the point where you feel like you're going to give up. Right at the point, whether that be in your career or in a financial situation or in life or in a relationship, when you're at that point where you feel like you're about to give it up and you can't take any more, that's when the magic happens. And the analogy that I like to use is that of giving birth to a child. It's like the pain gets so excruciating that you just feel like you cannot take any more, and then you have a baby, and that's where the magic happens. Right. And I think that's so relevant for so many people, because even with suicide, the way that it is these days, it's like, if only they just held on, because that's when the change was about to happen.
Yeah. So true. And it's having that awareness, again, going back to what you said to before, it's having that kind of like, you know, awareness of your surroundings, to be aware that, you know, it's not there to last forever. And if you can just stay, you know, the cause, then you'll come out that other side and become the person that you need to become, and go through that journey that you need to have gone through. So thank you again for that. Listen, we're coming to the end of our interview, Krista. And what I just want to do is just, again, allow you, are there any final gems and nuggets that you can share to really help people at that point where they are just starting out and they don't have a clue as to what's ahead? You know, what else can you offer?
I think that diving into knowledge, like I always had a thirst for knowledge. So if you are at the beginning, I think you need to dive headfirst into podcasts, into audio books, into reading books, you know, just, and in today's society, we get to have it all online. There's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's so much that is, you know, that helps us with personal development or inspiration or motivation or whatever, or helps us even understand how we operate from a mental standpoint. I would just get your hands on as much knowledge as you possibly can.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Krista, thank you very much for your insight, your wisdom, and your absolute gems and gold. And I would encourage anybody that's just listened and watched this to go back, you know, if you didn't have a notepad and pen, to write some of those lessons learned, because I am sure people are going to take a lot of value for that. So again, thank you for sharing your journey that you've gone through and the lessons that you have learned. I'm sure you could talk for hours, and I would love to get you back and go deeper into some of that. But again, Krista, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.